there everyone, and welcome to the 44th Speedrun interview. I got a pretty special speedrunner for you guys today. I am interviewing someone from the Undertale Speedrunning community. I am interviewing Shayy. Alright, let's go ahead and get started with this interview. Why did you start speedrunning?
So I started speedrunning back in the day, I want to say in 2017, because I used to watch games done quick all the time. I'd watched a ton of speedruns when I was a kid. I remember when I was really little, I used to go on the internet and look up speedruns of Sonic levels that people were posting onto YouTube back when YouTube was like a new thing. And I remember always being amazed at that. So I've known about speedrunning for a while, but I never actually started trying it until 2017. I was inspired by that year's GDQ, that AGDQ, particularly TGH's run at the very end of Undertale. The first game I ever tried to speedrun though wasn't Undertale. It was A Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. I wanted to emulate the glitches I watched in a particular video. I looked at the video and saw all the different speedrun glitches. I was like, wow, this is really cool. And also, wow, I can do this. And so I learned the speedrun for that game, but I wasn't able to record it or anything like that because 3DS recording is not easy. I didn't want to use webcam. So I switched over to doing Undertale instead because that speed game also looked really fun. I loved the run of it, and I was a big fan of a lot of the creators in the scene at the time. So I was like, okay, Undertale, it's one of my favorite games. Surely the speedrun's got to be a lot of fun. And that's how I got into it. And oh goodness gracious, I've been stuck with this game ever since.
What games are you currently speedrunning, and what games do you plan on speedrunning in the future?
So right now, I'm pretty much relegated entirely to Undertale and Deltarune. And Deltarune is sort of like a long-term investment. Like, part of the question is, what games do you plan on speedrunning in the future? Deltarune. It comes out in chapters and stuff, so I will constantly be getting new stuff to do with it as it progresses in its development, which is really cool, I feel. It's definitely like a long-term thing for me. And I'm like probably the most well-known Deltarune speedrunner, so it'll definitely be something to keep me around that game for a long time. At the moment, though, I don't really have any other plans to speedrun any games. I'm sort of the guy who like sticks with what he knows and tries to completely master that one particular thing, and I don't think I have fully mastered Undertale yet. I'd say I'm pretty close, but not quite done with it. I still have more and more to improve, but it's been getting less and less. I'll probably look into new games at some point or another, but I don't really have any concrete plans to go to other games. I'm basically just with the Toby Fox games at the moment.
What glitches, skips, and or tricks would you say has been the easiest and also the hardest for you to perform?
So, hardest trick for me to learn ever, I have to say, getting my head around Mad Dummy Skip took forever. It's like a super complicated skip, and I just remember having a super hard time learning it, so much so that I had to make my own setup for it for a while that used like a really weird audio cue, but it was still really, really difficult to learn. I'd say over, like, in terms of individual tricks in Undertale, I'd say it was the one that took me the longest to get succeeding in runs. Other skips sort of just come together after a lot of practice with the mechanics. That one in particular was a big change-up, so it was very difficult for me to get a grasp on at first. I had like a huge fail rate at it, and that was holding me back for a while, but I've gotten pretty good at it now, especially with modern setups. As for what skip was the easiest for me to learn, I'd say the easiest skip for me to learn was honestly probably the movement. I had a grasp on Undertale's movement from like day one, walking diagonally and stuff and taking turns tight. Like, if you look at my like week one speedruns, my movement was basically already as good as it is now. I had a very good grasp on that early on. I was taking corners exactly how you should, taking every wall clip. Like, I caught onto that without even knowing it was a thing, basically.
Are there any games that you were shocked to see others speedrun?
So, a game that I was shocked to find had a very large and prominent speedrunning community were those Yu-Gi-Oh games, I'd say. Like Forbidden Memories and stuff like that. I never would have imagined that kind of game would have a popular speedrun crowd. But it does. I would have thought there was a ton of RNG involved and that wouldn't be a fun speed game, but turns out, no, there's a really, really massive speedrun community for it, just not the kind of thing I thought would have that sort of scene. Another speedrun that I was amazed to find a lot of people had done was a childhood game I used to play. Putt Putt Saves the Zoo has like a weirdly high amount of speedruns. Even though it's like literally like a 3-minute run where you literally just point and click. I think it's really funny.
What is your biggest goal for speedrunning?
For a long time, my biggest goal was to get a world record, but ultimately, it's all just about self-improvement at the end of the day. I think nowadays my modern goal with speedrunning is to entertain more than anything else. While I still like pushing myself as far as I can go time-wise, that is mostly just satisfaction for myself. Mainly, I use speedrunning as a sort of intermediary to use as the basis of my own content. Where I've gotten good enough at where I can sort of like speedrun the game while also talking to chat. I use it as a entertainment basis more or so. So I guess that's probably my biggest goal with speedrunning now, is to be entertaining with it and bring a wider audience to the thing, because I have inspired a lot of people to run Undertale and Deltarune, and I've brought in a lot of new people, which I think is really awesome. I love it when new people get to meet the game, or get to play the game, I mean. A big thing for me was pushing for more accessibility, pushing for better rules, pushing for more forgiveness and leniency towards newer runners. Like, we had a thing where there was going to be a run rejected in a glitchless category because they accidentally used a glitch for 1 frame and then immediately stopped using it. And they were thinking about rejecting that run, and actually did at first. And then I stepped in and I was like, wait, we should reconsider this and maybe change the rules so something like this is allowed, because I think that's a little ridiculous to disqualify an entire person's first run because of what they did for literally 1 frame that ended up actually losing time ultimately. It's like, come on now.
Thank you very much for being a part of my interview series, Shayy. You were definitely one of the most unique speedrunners I've had on the channel in this series so far, especially because Undertale is like one of the most unique speedrunning games out there. So yeah, this was definitely a great pleasure to have you. Thanks again. If you guys like to check out Shayy and his Undertale speedrunning, then I'll leave a link to his Twitch in the description down below. I'll also leave a link to his YouTube just in case you'd like to check out any of his other Undertale content. Okay, that's it for this interview. Thanks again for watching. If you enjoyed it, speedrun hitting that like button as fast as possible. And if you want to see more speedrun related content, then glitch that subscriber button, turning it gray. Thanks again, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Goodbye, everyone.